Good evening, this is Primetime News and I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight. Rain expected to intensify further after the 21st of this month. 11 reservoirs overflow. Train services along the upcountry railway line restricted. Woman who aided and abetted Sirasa remanded. A stockpile of T-56 ammunition was found in Keravalapitia. The gunman and the lookout suspect in the Miga Sare Kaja murder revealed to be associates of Sampath Manamperi.
මේක ජාලයක් නේ. මේවට කවුරු කවුරු සම්බන්ධයිද කියන එක සමහර විට කලින් ආණ්ඩුවේ ඉඳලා දැන් විපක්ෂය නියෝජනය කරන අය. දැන් වොයිස් කට් වලින් බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්.
It is difficult for groups rejected by the people to gain public support just by forming alliances. A young group is needed for the role of the opposition. A statement from former Minister Partali Ranawaka.
මේ විපක්ෂයේ හිතනවා නම් අපට නිකම්ම බලයට එන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කවදා හරි ආණ්ඩුවේ පාවෙලා කියලා. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Sri Lanka defeats China to secure third place in the second leg of the Asia Rugby 7 Series 2025. In a top story for tonight, the Department of Meteorology says that prevailing rain conditions are expected to increase after the 21st of October. They add that the turbulent ocean conditions southeast of the island may develop into a low-pressure area by day after tomorrow, which could have an indirect impact on the country.
According to the Department of Meteorology, heavy rains of about 100 millimeters may continue in the western, Sabaragamuwa, southern and northwestern provinces.
Currently, a disturbance is present near the Andaman Islands from the southeast direction of Sri Lanka. By the 21st of October, this is expected to develop into a low-pressure area. Therefore, there is a possibility of an increase in rainfall due to indirect effects of the disturbance.
Meanwhile, the highest rainfall in the past 24 hours was recorded in Paduka. 142 millimeters of rainfall was reported in Paduka. According to the Met Department, Vogan Estate received 128 millimeters of rainfall and Hanwala recorded 112 millimeters in the past 24 hours. The sluice gates of Dadroya, Rajanganaya, Angamuwa and Kalawevel have been opened following heavy showers. In addition, the two sluice gates of Kalawevel have been opened by 2 feet each, releasing water into Kalawaya at a rate of over 3,400 cubic feet per second. As a result, the road from Aukana to Kakirava was flooded near the Aukana temple. According to the Department of Irrigation, people living in lowland areas near reservoirs should exercise caution due to this ongoing weather condition.
Water levels in the reservoirs are rising to some extent. It is especially important for people living near these reservoirs to monitor water levels and to be particularly cautious when using roads.
Meanwhile, with the decrease in rainfall on the western slopes of the central hills, all the sluice gates of the Polgola Mahali Dam have been closed again. Traffic along the Passara-Madolsima main road was disrupted this afternoon due to the collapse of an earth mound. Meanwhile, the landslide warning issued for 7 districts remains in effect. Accordingly, the National Building Research Organisation has advised people in Galle, Badulla, Kandy, Kegol, Matale, Nuwara Eliya and Ratnapura districts to remain vigilant.
Rainfall of more than 100 to 200 millimeters has been recorded in mountainous areas. The possibility of dangerous situations arising from even small amounts of future rainfall has increased. Therefore, people living around riverbanks and waterways are advised to stay alert. If any gradual increase in rainfall is observed, they are requested to evacuate to safe locations.
Meanwhile, the Disaster Management Centre reports that a disaster situation has been reported in 2 districts due to heavy rain.
කුරුණෑගල දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ තද සුළං හේතුවෙන්
360 people from 88 families were affected by strong winds in the Kurunegala district, with partial damage reported to 88 houses. In the Anuradhapura district, 36 people were affected by heavy rains and flash floods. The 117 telephone line is open 24 hours a day for all disaster management activities. The public can contact the Disaster Management Centre for necessary assistance.
මෙවුන් කටයුතු වෙන්නේ ඔබ සියලු දෙනාටම අපදා කළමනාකරන මධ්‍යස්ථානය සමග සම්බන්ධ විය හැකි වේ.
Train travel along the upcountry railway line has been restricted up to Rambukana due to landslides and fallen trees in several areas, including Ihalakote, Alagalla and Balana. A train travelling from Kandy to Colombo Fort also derailed near the Ihalakote railway station. The railway department stated that removal of the debris and fallen trees has already begun. Meanwhile, the Colombo-Badulla 9th mail train has been cancelled.
Sirasa, the woman arrested on charges of aiding and abetting the prime suspect in the Ganemulla Sanjeeva murder, has been remanded until the 24th of October. She was produced before Colombo Additional Magistrate A.K. Dasanayaka today.
4 suspects arrested in Nepal, including Sirasa, are currently being held at the Colombo Crimes Division. 2 other suspects are in custody at the Paliaguda Crime Investigation Division and the Western Province South Crime Division. During interrogations, investigators had uncovered significant information on crimes committed by the suspects. Based on these revelations, Sirasa was recently taken to several locations, including Aludgama, Todandua and Middenia for further investigations. So far, a total of 4 suspects have been arrested in connection with the ongoing probe. In a related development, a 52-year-old woman who owned a house in Valipanna, Matugama, where Sirasa had allegedly been hiding, was brought to the Judicial Medical Officer this morning by officers from the Colombo Crimes Division. Police had revealed that the woman had assisted Sirasa in hiding in Matugama, acting on the instructions of an individual known as Sudha, residing overseas, who is an associate of Matugama Shan. The woman in question is the mother of Sudha and also the mother-in-law of the police constable who was arrested in Aludgama in connection with the ongoing investigations. The woman was produced before the Judicial Medical Officer, after which she was produced before the Colombo Magistrates Court. After considering the facts presented, the magistrate ordered that she be remanded until the 24th of October. Sirasa, the main suspect in the murder of Ganemulla Sanjeeva, is currently being held by the Colombo Crimes Division under a 90-day detention order. Meanwhile, police have uncovered a series of new revelations during the interrogation of Gampaha Baba, who was arrested in Nepal along with Sirasa and is currently detained by the Paliaguda Crime Investigation Division. Based on the information revealed by the suspect, authorities had recovered 50 T-56 bullets dumped near the 18th mile post along the Kattunaika Expressway in Mahabaghe last night. The suspect had reportedly told the police that the bullets were given to him by KL Babdara Padme. Investigations into the incident are being carried out by the Paliaguda Crime Investigation Division. Meanwhile, separate interrogations of Nugegoda Bobby, who is currently in the custody of the Western Province South Crimes Division, had led to the recovery of a foreign-made live hand grenade and several ammunition rounds hidden in Jambugasmulla, Nugegoda.
16 suspects arrested during anti-narcotics raids conducted along the Tangol and Gaul coastal areas have been remanded. Police said the suspects have been identified as close associates of 2 major drug traffickers operating in the southern province.
Investigations carried out by the Police Narcotics Bureau are underway into the 16 suspects arrested during drug raids carried out in the seas of Tangol and Gaul. 5 suspects were arrested in connection with the discovery of 839 kilograms of drugs that were found floating in the Tangol Sea recently. In a separate operation, the Navy apprehended another vessel in southern waters along with 6 suspects on suspicion of transporting drugs by sea. Meanwhile, during another multi-day fishing trawler inspection in southern waters last Friday, authorities recovered over 53 kilograms of heroin. 5 fishermen were taken into custody in connection with the incident. The 16 suspects arrested for their connection to these incidents are currently being detained for further questioning by the Police Narcotics Bureau.
Several more facts have been revealed regarding the murder of Aruna Priyantha Vidanagama, also known as Migas Are Khaja, which took place last February. Police stated that several suspects who aided and abetted the murder have been identified as associates of Sampath Manamperi.
On the night of the 18th February, Aruna Vidanagamge, also known as Migas Are Khaja, was shot dead while he was riding a motorcycle with his 2 children. Tragically, all 3 lost their lives in the attack. Bako Saman and Thamili Lahiru, who were arrested in Indonesia, have been accused of carrying out the murder. Investigations revealed that the firearm used for the murders was supplied by former Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Pradeshya Sabha candidate Sampath Manamperi. Police have now identified the shooter of Migas Are Khaja and his 2 children as a man named Roshan. He was also reportedly involved in construction work at Manamperi's residence. Another suspect named Jeevan, who had allegedly been monitoring Migas Are Khaja's movements prior to the murder, is said to have been working for Manamperi. Sampath Manamperi is currently in the custody of the Western Province North Crimes Division under detention orders. The revelations come after Migas Are Khaja's wife provided information to the Criminal Investigation Department regarding the murder of rugby player Wasim Tajuddin. She has reportedly identified Khaja on CCTV footage as part of a group that followed Tajuddin on the day that he was killed. Following Tajuddin's murder on the 17th of May 2012, several incidents, including evidence tampering, were reported and is currently under investigation. According to the Criminal Investigation Department's report to the court on the 20th of September 2018, a defender vehicle under the registration WPKA 0642 belonging to the Cyrilia Savia Foundation was used to abduct Tajuddin.
Minister of Health and Mass Media Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa expressed the following views regarding the ongoing investigations into drug trafficking and organized crime networks.
This is a network. Once you start making arrests from one end, it gradually begins to unfold, revealing the entire structure. That's exactly what we are doing, tracing the network and uncovering more connections through interrogations. As we dig deeper, more suspects are being arrested and the law is enforced against them. Previously, when someone was arrested and questioned, that person would mysteriously end up killed, often under the pretext of recovering weapons. Why did that happen? Because that's how the chain was broken, preventing further information from surfacing. Now, it's becoming increasingly clear that there had been significant political interference in these networks. Some of them who were in the government back then are now in the opposition, and you can clearly identify who they are by listening to their recent voice cuts. Their words give them away. Many of them speak out of fear, thinking the law is closing in on them. That's also why certain individuals are now resorting to baseless allegations and slander, targeting the Criminal Investigation Department, the Bribery Commission, the Minister of Public Security, and even the judiciary, simply because the law is finally being enforced against them.
Newsfirst with the people.
General Secretary of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya MP Ranjit Madhubandara said that the United National Party has only a few members left in the country. He made these remarks while speaking about working together with the UNP.
ආයකතුමා රහගිය කාලේ වේදිකාවේ කියලා තිබුණා මේ කිසිම සංධානයකට සජ්ජ බීජ කියන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. නමුත් ඔබතුමා කියනවා මේ ඇයි මේ සංධානගත වෙන්නේ? දේශපාලන තීන්දුව තීරණ කාලීනව වෙනස් වෙනවා. දේශපාලන හැසිරීම අනුව වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඉතින් නායකතුමාගේ ප්‍රධානත්වයෙන් තියෙන කළමනාකරණ කමිටුව තමයි තීන්දුව කරේ සාකච්ඡා කරන්න අවශ්‍ය කරුණු සම්බන්ධව කමිටුවක් පත් කරා. රටේම මම දන්න විදිහට නම් සියලු එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ සුළු පිරිසක් ඉන්නේ සහ සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ සියලු පාක්ෂිකව මේකට කැමැත්ත ප්‍රකාශ කළා තියෙනවා. රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මේ ගැන සාකච්ඡා කළා නැත්නම්? නෑ රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්මයාට ඉදිරියේදී අපිට කතා කරන්න සිද්ධ වෙයි. නමුත් අද ප්‍රධාන විපක්ෂයේ විදිහට මේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ වැඩි පිරිසක් කැමැත්ත ප්‍රකාශ කළ වෙලේ සජිත් මහත්තයා කවුරුත් දන්න කාරණයක්. නොවැම්බර් මාසයේ කිසියම් සමුළුවක් තියෙනවා නුගේකට පක්ෂ සියලු ලේවල් එකතු කරගෙන. තාම මේ ගැන සාකච්ඡා කළා නෑ. පක්ෂ අතර එහෙම සාකච්ඡාවක් කළා නෑ.
Meanwhile, leader of the United Republic Front, Partly Champika Ranawaka, says that the opposition groups currently engaged in alliance discussions are the same groups repeatedly rejected by the people. He emphasized that a new political force should be given the opportunity to take on the role of the opposition.
These parties have been trying to win elections on their own for more than 36 years since 1989 and they've failed. The people of this country, ourselves included, clearly rejected those same leaders during the Aragalia in 2022. So just combining those same parties again isn't going to bring the change this country is asking for. If new, young leaders step in and they are clean without any corruption allegations, then maybe those parties have a future. Otherwise, the next election will be an opening for completely new people with new ideas, especially people who can truly represent this new, younger generation. People have changed. They've moved away from traditional party politics. If the opposition is just sitting back thinking they'll come to power simply because people will eventually get fed up with the government, they are mistaken. That's not going to happen. The real opportunity lies with a group that has a fresh vision, understands the needs of the people and is led by capable young individuals who can do better than this government. Forming alliances alone won't win power or the people's trust. What we need is a change in policy and a change in the people.
ප්‍රතිපත්ති වෙනස් කරන්න නැතුව පුජ්‍යලය වෙනස් කරන්න නැතුව
All ministers and deputy ministers of the current government have rejected the fuel allowance provided under parliamentary privileges. Minister of Housing, Construction and Water Supply Dr. Susil Ranasinghe said that the allegations made by the opposition in this regard are unethical. When the same parliament member, minister or deputy minister holds multiple posts and if they are to receive allowances for all those posts they hold, we only accept the allowances related to one post to perform our duties. As a government, we have made a policy decision that we should not receive both salaries and diesel allowances both from the ministry and the institutions designated by parliament. As a government, we have made a policy decision that we should not receive both salaries and diesel allowances from both the ministry and the institutions designated by parliament. That is why we, as ministers and deputy ministers, inform the ministries that we do not want salaries from the ministries and have decided to receive only the diesel allowance from the ministry. That is why we submitted a letter to parliament stating that we do not want the diesel allowance provided by parliament. But after we came to power, we also reduced that diesel allowance from 1,950 litres to 900 litres. Our ministers and deputy ministers now receive an allowance of 900 litres of diesel from the ministry for their duties. This is a policy decision taken by the members of the NPP. Those who were ministers in the opposition before, who enjoyed all these benefits, are now questioning this. Our stance is that questioning this is unethical. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya returned to the island last night, marking the end of a 3-day official visit to India.
The NDTV World Summit 2025, held at Bharat Mandap in New Delhi under the patronage of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Addressing the summit, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya emphasized her government's commitment to working with the international community, including India, to build a prosperous Sri Lanka. This year's summit focused on global transformations amid rising instability and uncertainty. Prominent figures such as former UK Prime Minister Rishi Rishi Sunak, former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott, along with several heads of state and diplomats, were in attendance. On the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Amarasuriya held a bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Modi. The discussions centered on strengthening cooperation between the two countries, with a particular focus on education reforms and development priorities. During her three-day official visit to India, the Prime Minister also attended a special reception hosted by the Sri Lankan High Commission in New Delhi. The event was attended by a number of foreign ambassadors and high commissioners accredited to Sri Lanka, operating from the Indian capital.
The President has issued a new Gazette notification effective from the 15th of October regarding the import of Ponni Samba rice without import control permits.
Accordingly, the import of a variety of Ponni Samba, similar to Kiri Samba, belonging to the GR11 group, is now permitted. However, the maximum rice stock that can be imported by a single importer is limited to 52 metric tons. The Gazette further states that rice stocks imported under these provisions must be released from Sri Lanka Customs on or before the 15th of November.
The Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, emphasized that people must undergo spiritual development, adding that everyone should strive to live according to the principles and teachings of their respective religions.
The Archbishop of Colombo shared these views while attending the 100th Jubilee Mass at St. Gerard Manjula Church in Sapugahawatha in Dodangada.
දෙවියන් වහන්සේ හැම මිනිසෙකම මවලා තියෙන්නේ විශේෂ පුද්ගලයෙක් ලෙස.
God considers every human being as a unique and special individual. None of us will appear in this world twice, will we? The world is home to over 9 billion people, which means 9,000 million people. But among all of them, I am just one, and no one exactly like me exists anywhere else. By the year 2150, none of the people living today will be still among the living. Keep that in mind. Don't be afraid because I said this. 2150 is still far away. Perhaps all that will remain is a cross in a cemetery with a name on it. No matter what positions we hold, how much power we gain, or how many achievements, in the end, we are all the same. Even for me, everything is temporary. The mitre I wear is not permanent. It does not make me special, nor does it mean that God has elevated me above others. Perhaps the person who struggles to make ends meet today could surpass me one day. That is the nature of life. The real questions are not about positions, responsibilities, money, bank accounts, buildings or vehicles. The real question is, how did we live our lives? So dear brothers and sisters, when we reflect on the saints, let us also strive to become holy ourselves. May that blessing be granted to all of you.
සාන්තුවරුන් ගැන කල්පනා කරද්දී අපිත් සාන්තුවරු වෙන්නට උත්සාහ කරමු. ඒ ආශිර්වාදය ඔබ සියලු දෙනාටම ලැබේවා. ආමෙන්.
The rich heritage of Russian language and culture took center stage in Colombo today as the Festival of Russian Language and Culture got underway, bringing together more than 200 school children studying Russian language and culture in Sri Lanka.
The Festival of Russian Language and Culture, titled Russia in Our Heart, kicked off today in Colombo and will continue through 22nd of October. The festival features a rich program including integrated lessons, games, workshops and lecture talks aimed at promoting Russian language and culture. During the event, a special performance by a professional pianist from Russia honored the birthday of legendary composer Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky with a moving rendition of one of his most iconic works, The Four Seasons. The event is part of a larger project aimed at enhancing international cooperation and strengthening cultural ties between Russia and Sri Lanka. It is being implemented by the Yakovlev Chuash State Pedagogical University and the My Story Foundation for the Humanities with support from the Russian Ministry of Education.
The Biological Science Students Forum of the Faculty of Science, University of Kelaniya today began its two-day career guidance program.
Inflect 2025, a two-day career guidance program organized by the Biological Science Students Forum, or the BSSF of the Faculty of Science of the University of California, commenced today. The program aims to equip undergraduates in the biological sciences stream with valuable insights into a wide range of career opportunities in healthcare, clinical research, medical diagnostics, biotechnology, and the broader life sciences sector. Day 1 featured a series of interactive sessions, including career awareness discussions, personal branding strategies, and a CV writing workshop. The program will conclude tomorrow with a mock interview session, providing students with practical experience and feedback to enhance their professional readiness.
The Israeli military said today that Air Force fighter jets carried out airstrikes in Gaza's Rafah area to remove a threat after terrorists opened fire on troops. It said the military's actions blatantly violated the ceasefire agreement, adding that the military would respond firmly. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered strong action against terrorist targets in Gaza.
The Israeli military says it has carried out strikes in southern Gaza after an alleged attack by Hamas on its troops in Rafah. The IDF says its troops were dismantling terrorist infrastructure in the Rafah area in accordance with the ceasefire agreement when they were fired upon. Israel's military called it a blatant violation of the ceasefire agreement, adding that it will respond firmly. There have been no immediate reports of casualties. In response, Hamas said it's unaware of any clashes in Rafah and that it remains committed to the ceasefire agreement, and it accused Israel of violating the deal and fabricating pretexts to justify its crimes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has instructed his defense and security officials to act forcefully against terrorist targets in the Gaza Strip. It comes as the Hamas-run Ministry of Health says 8 people have been killed in Gaza in the past 24 hours as a direct result of Israeli targeting. The ministry says the bodies of 15 more Palestinians were handed over by Israel by the Red Cross to officials in Gaza earlier, bringing the total number of bodies it has received to 150. During the first phase of the ceasefire, all living Israeli hostages have been released, as well as 12 out of 28 of those deceased.
Pakistan and Afghanistan have agreed to an immediate ceasefire during talks hosted by Doha after the South Asia neighbors extended a ceasefire following a week of fierce border clashes.
Pakistan and Afghanistan have agreed to an immediate ceasefire at talks in Doha after at least 10 Afghans were killed in Pakistani airstrikes that broke the earlier 48-hour truce. Qatar's foreign ministry said during the negotiations mediated by Qatar and Turkey on Saturday that Pakistan and Afghanistan also agreed to hold follow-up meetings in the coming days in view of ensuring the sustainability of the ceasefire and verify its implementation in a reliable and sustainable manner. Pakistan's Defence Minister Khawaja Mohammad Asif posted on X on Sunday that the ceasefire has been finalized and that both sides would meet again on 25th of October in Istanbul to discuss detailed matters. Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid also confirmed in a statement that the parties agreed on a complete and meaningful ceasefire. Pakistan's military carried out strikes in southeastern Afghanistan on Friday, just hours after a 2-day ceasefire between the neighboring countries expired. At least 10 people were killed in the fresh strikes in Afghanistan, including 3 Afghanistan cricketers. Expressing grief over the killings of the cricketers, the Afghanistan Cricket Board announced its withdrawal from the upcoming Tri-Nation T20I series between Pakistan, Afghanistan and Sri Lanka. Earlier, both sides said they were holding peace talks as they sought a way forward after the clashes killed dozens and wounded hundreds in the worst violence between the two countries since the Taliban seized power in Kabul in 2021.
U.S. President Donald Trump said the 2 survivors from a U.S. strike on a vessel in the Caribbean Sea suspected of carrying drugs are being sent back to their home countries.
US President Donald Trump said yesterday that the United States was sending 2 suspected drug traffickers back to their native Ecuador and Colombia after a military strike on their drug smuggling submarine in the Caribbean that killed 2 others. Trump said on his Truth Social platform, quote, "It was my great honor to destroy a very large drug-carrying submarine that was navigating towards the United States on a well-known narco-trafficking transit route," end quote, adding that the vessel was loaded with fentanyl and other drugs.
It's a drug-carrying submarine built specifically for the transportation of massive amounts of drugs.
He added, quote, "Two of the terrorists were killed. The two surviving terrorists are being returned to their countries of origin, Ecuador and Colombia, for detention and prosecution," end quote. Colombian President Gustavo Petro confirmed that the Colombian suspect had been repatriated. Petro said on X, quote, "We are glad he is alive and he will be prosecuted according to the law," end quote. However, Colombian President Gustavo Petro has accused the United States of committing murder following the strike. In a social media post, Petro accused the US of violating his country's sovereignty and killing a Colombian fisherman. Posting on X, he said, quote, "The Colombian boat was adrift and had its distress signal up due to an engine failure," end quote, when it was struck. He added, quote, "We await explanations from the US government," end quote. It comes after President Donald Trump said the United States had struck a drug-carrying submarine on Thursday, killing 2 people. The strike, which Trump had announced on Friday, was the latest in an unprecedented US military campaign that he says is aimed at choking the flow of drugs from Latin America to the United States.
Today on No King Day, nearly 7 million people have taken to the streets across the United States in protests against President Donald Trump's policies. Demonstrations have been held in more than 2,700 cities and towns, continuing the nationwide protests that began yesterday.
Huge crowds have taken part in No Kings protests against President Donald Trump's policies in cities across the US, including New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Miami and Los Angeles. Thousands packed New York City's iconic Times Square and streets all around, with people holding signs with slogans like "Democracy, not monarchy" and "The Constitution is not optional."
And the co-founder of the Lincoln Project.
The No Kings protests began as a broad response to what demonstrators describe as President Trump's authoritarian agenda. Since returning to the White House in January, Trump has expanded the scope of presidential power, using executive orders to dismantle parts of the federal government and to deploy National Guard troops to U.S. cities, despite objections by state governors. He has also called on the administration's top law enforcement officials to prosecute his perceived enemies.
We say no kings, no dictators, free America!
Organizers said there were nearly 7 million people at more than 2,700 events in all 50 states, which police said were mostly peaceful, with many large cities reporting no protest-related incidents or arrests. Demonstrators voiced outrage at a range of Trump's policies, but some key themes took center stage, including perceived threats to democracy, the administration's ICE raids and troop deployments in U.S. cities, and cuts to federal programs, especially health care.
Sri Lanka beat China 19-14 to secure the 3rd place for the Cup in their 2nd stage of the 2025 Asia Rugby 7 Series.
Sri Lanka qualified for the semi-finals of the Cup round by defeating China 34-7 in the quarter-finals, and Sri Lanka had to face Japan in the semi-finals. The first half of the heated match ended with both teams tied at 5 points each. However, in the second half, Japan scored 10 points and Sri Lanka managed to score only 7 points. Thereby, Japan won 15-12 against Sri Lanka, qualifying for the finals. Sri Lanka and China entered the field to compete for the 3rd place in the tournament. The Sri Lankan team led the first half 7 points to 5. They scored an additional 12 points in the second half. China was only able to score 9 points in that half. Accordingly, the Sri Lankan team was placed third, defeating China 19 points to 14. The final match of the tournament saw the teams from Japan and Hong Kong compete. Hong Kong won the tournament trophy, defeating Japan with a score of 12 points to 7. Hong Kong scored 2 tries and 1 conversion, while the Japanese team only managed to secure 1 try and 1 conversion. This victory marks the 8th time Hong Kong has won the Asia Rugby Emirates Sevens tournament. Japan won the women's overall championship of the tournament.
Japan women's team, the winners of the Asia Rugby Emirates 7 Series, Lanka 2. Congratulations, Team Japan, the overall winners of the Asia Rugby Emirates 7 Series.
The award for the best female player of the tournament, the Maharaja Media Player of the tournament, was won by Savannah Bodman of Japan. Harry Sayers of Hong Kong won the award for the best male player of the tournament and secured the Maharaja Media Player of the tournament award. Both awards were presented by Buddhi Vikramanayaka, the Chief Operating Officer of the MBC Media Network. The second leg of the 2025 Asia Rugby Emirates Sevens tournament was sponsored by the Maharaja Media Network.
In a crucial match to book their semi-final spot alongside Australia and South Africa in the ICC Women's World Cup, the 20th match between England and India is currently underway in India. England set a target of 288. England made a confident start after winning the toss in the ICC Women's World Cup match against India, getting through the power play without losing a wicket for the first time since their tournament opener. Tammy Beaumont struggled to find rhythm while Amy Jones looked fluent, scoring 56, which was her best of the tournament, before both were dismissed by Deepthi Sharma. Natskiva Brunt and Heather Knight then built a strong 113-run partnership for the third wicket, with Knight leading the charge with a superb 109 off 91 balls, including 15 fours and a 6. However, her run out in the 45th over triggered a sudden collapse and England tumbled from 249 for 3 to 288 for 8, losing 5 wickets in quick succession. Deepthi Sharma started with the ball, claiming 4 for 51 to help India pull things back in the final overs. In a stunning display of speed, precision and composure beyond his years, Sri Lanka's 18-year-old Yevan David won first place in the final round of the Euro Formula Open at Monza in Italy and also became the first Sri Lankan to achieve this feat.
Yevan David delivered a masterclass performance at the legendary Monza circuit to win race 3 of round 8 in the final race of the 2025 Euro Formula Open season in 27 minutes and 47.659 seconds. Dubbed the Sri Lankan Lion on the track by fans and commentators alike, David crossed the line first in commanding fashion, fending off intense pressure from seasoned competitors on the high-speed Italian circuit. His victory in Monza solidified his status as one of the brightest rising stars in international motorsport. More than just a race win, today's triumph cemented David's position as the rookie champion of 2025, while also securing second place overall in the championship standings, an extraordinary achievement in his debut season. David's rise through the ranks has been nothing short of meteoric. Coming into the Euro Formula Open as a relative unknown on the European single-seater scene, he has now firmly established himself as the driver to watch.
Allah was overflowing with locals and foreign tourists this weekend. Today on Happy Headlines, we will share information about the tourist attractions in Allah.
Happy Headlines. Allah, the beautiful city, is calling. They say the true magic of Allah unfolds when you journey there by train. And when that train wins its way through Allah, virtually everyone is swept across the legendary Nine-Arch Bridge. To soak in that breathtaking beauty, travelers from both near and far gathered today to witness the majesty of the Nine-Arch Bridge. The Allah railway station was buzzing, a vibrant hub of delighted tourists. This year is proving to be a golden chapter for Sri Lanka's tourism industry. We've already welcomed over 1.8 million foreign tourists this year. By September, this influx of visitors had channeled a substantial wealth into our country, $2,472.9 million in dollar revenue.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.